Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is Tasha Data Trade Whisper, creator of the BYOB Cash Out Strategy. And as we get started this evening, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Let me know where you're calling in from. We'll get this call started in just a moment, but drop it in the chat where you're calling in from, along with those affirmations. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, and we have had a profitable week. That is exactly what we have had. We have definitely had a very, very profitable week this week, and I'm just excited for us to just go ahead and dive in and get started this evening because this is Market Talks. That is what this is. And so go ahead and drop it in the chat. For those of you all still logging in with us, for those of you all still joining us, make sure you drop it in the chat. All right, drop it in the chat. Let me know where you're calling in from. All right, drop it in the chat. And let's go ahead and let's get started here this evening. Right, let's get started here. All right, so who do we have? Let me see. I see Jacksonville. Good evening, Cleveland. Good evening, Miramar. Good evening, Minnesota. North Carolina, Navarre. Good evening, Jacksonville. California. Good evening, Chicago. Cleveland, Tavares. Good evening, Tampa. Sacramento, Orlando, Toledo, Minnesota, Edmonton, Virginia. You're the signal from Florida. I love it. Milwaukee, South Florida, Chattanooga. Good evening, Milwaukee. Good evening. Baltimore, Columbia. Good evening, Moultrie. I'm gonna go with Claremont, Cleveland, one of them. Okay, I know who that is. That's Cleveland. All right, guys. So just go ahead and drop it in the chat. All right, Nigeria. Good evening. So drop it in the chat. Let me know where you're calling in from. Definitely want to make sure that we identify everywhere we are at. This is definitely BYOB Worldwide. We are BYOB Worldwide, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now, affirmations, okay? Let's just go ahead and end this week out strong. Okay? Like I said, we had a profitable week. We had a wonderful week, but we definitely want to end this week out strong. And when I say end this week out strong, it is because tonight, I want to we had a profitable week, and tonight is about tools training. And so in the evenings, what we do is a training, and in the mornings is a profit call where we really kind of navigate Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening. So we really just kind of dive in and, really just navigate you guys through. So what I want to do is, if we have anybody on the call for the very first time, you're on BYOB Market Talks for the first time, let me get a 111 in the chat. Let me get a 111. And if you are still learning how to cash out, let me get a 222. All right, welcome and welcome back. Welcome back. So now, as we, let's just go ahead and dive in, because the first thing first is I really want to talk to you guys, and we say it all the time, but I can go over all the tools, I can go over everything, but the reality is our mindsets, all right? It's our mindsets. And so these affirmations that we're asking you to drop, these affirmations that you walk in, these affirmations are so important. You want to walk in the understanding that whatever it is that you desire, you want to walk in whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish. You want to make sure that you're walking in that belief and in that understanding, all right? You definitely want to make sure that you're walking in that. And so if you're walking in that, right, you're definitely walking in that, then the reality is you can do whatever you put your mindset to. You know, what you focus on is what's going to manifest. And so when we understand that what we focus on is what's going to manifest, then that is why we must begin, and why we must begin, and why each call starts out the way that it does. And so when we ask you to drop that mindset, those affirmations in the chat, I mean, it's to acknowledge who you are, and it's to acknowledge, I like that I am who God says I am. You know, it's, you want to walk in this energy, you know, you want to walk through this mindset, you want to walk in this. And so I am a BYOB master trader, right? I'm a BYOB master trader, meaning that, see, there's a reason why we put energy behind these things. So I am a BYOB master trader simply means that you're owning your skill set. You're owning your wealth creation. You're owning your value. Okay. That's what that means. And then as you sit there and you say, I'm owning that, I'm a BYOB master trader, I am the signal, which means that you are the person that's going to feed you and your family. You are the person that's going to be able to develop that relationship with the market. You are that person that's going to be able to walk in that energy, right? That's who you are. So, and I want to kind of talk to you all tonight about you being the signal. All right, I definitely do. So, what I had planned for you all, I'm definitely going to deviate just a little bit because I've gotten a few questions on understanding in the market. And, you know, we've been really taking our time and going over things to enhance you being that signal. All right. That's ultimately what we've been doing. So all my trades in and profit. Do I expect you all to walk in 100%? No, I don't. You know, all my trades in and profit. I don't expect you to walk at 100%, but I expect you to walk in 100%. You make sense? I expect you to have an expectancy of walking at 100% accuracy rate. You want to focus. Yes, there's an 8%, back tested 92%. So absolutely there is a 8%, right? That's there that trades possibly don't end in profit. But see, if you've connected your trade journal, if you've connected that online trade journal, if you walk in that mindset the same way, see, and this was what I meant when I started telling you guys last week, we want to stop compartmentalizing things. Because if I go to work, I have an expectancy, right? I have an expectancy that I'm going to get paid. So there's you, and we're gonna have a misunderstanding if I don't get paid, right? It would definitely be some sort of misunderstanding. And so that's the same mentality and the same thought process you have to have with the market, because there are so many things out there here, so many comments, so many people, you know, what you shouldn't expect, some people negative. No, what you believe, that's why that's happening for them, is because of their thought process and their mentality. And so we want you to be in a position, in a mindset, okay? And so that mindset that you're a winner, that mindset that I got this, that mindset that I'm unstoppable, that mindset that I'm setting my family free, that mindset that this is it, right? I am the big bank. I am my own bank. That is that mindset you want to be in. And if you're in that mindset, then you're going to approach these charts with a certain energy. You're going to approach these charts with the energy of winning, with the energy of obtaining clarity, with the energy of obtaining greatness. And so I'm going to shift. So you guys walk with me with this, you know, so I'm definitely going to shift a little bit. And, you know, from what, because I mean, I had it all laid out. I was pulling out another tool. But I want us to focus on those entries. I want us to focus on the understanding, because on our profit calls, if you notice, like we've been following this, you know, this GBP, right? GBP, JPY, and we've been following, where is it at? It should be here. It's not though. So let me see, I might have marked over it. So, right, we've been following these trades, and let me take the pivots off. And so I'm gonna move them over here. Now we've been following these two, all right? Understanding that we've been following these two. And so For those of you all who are new to us, let me go ahead and bring some clarity. All right. And I'm gonna actually pull some of these tonight and kind of really show you how that works. But, just to kind of bring some clarity to you all, is what we do in the evenings is we educate, right? What we do here in the evenings is we educate. And in the mornings is a profit call. And so what we do is we take what we learn in the evenings and we implement it in the mornings. So tonight, what we're going to do is I want to talk to you about, these zones. Okay. I definitely want to talk to you about these zones. I think I got quite a bit of questions, and we've trained on it before, but it's okay to go back. We did like one or two trainings, and not to, I'm talking about recently, like this year, but now what I think the reason why I want to go back is because of the fact that I can show you something up front, and then, I can show you something up front. And then when we start learning the skill set and walking through it, because it's new in the very beginning. It's very new in the beginning, and you'll grasp it. But then as we walk through and we begin that understanding, and we see it. And then, of course, when you go back, then it makes sense. And for those of you all who have walked through and watched our Getting Started video, that's exactly why, which is under Become the Bank, that's exactly why that training is done the way that it's done. That's exactly why, we walk through that training and introduce you to the market the way that we do, from the foundation, come to the YouTube channel, but then you have to go back to the academy, guys, go back. I appreciate that, Ms. Hightower, and then so we go back, right? We go back. And so many of you all don't go back. You don't finish the 300 and the 400 series because you're making some money. You grab some 777s. But I want to stress to you how important this education is. An educated trader is a profitable trader. And that's what we always want to walk in. So now, as we dive in here, as we dive in, one thing I definitely want to walk you through is the actual strategy, right? Is the BYOB cash out strategy. So of course, we're going to start with that foundation. And I was looking to see, because we have some new triggers that have recently come through. And so GBP USD, AUD, let's go with GBP. Well, I don't want to mark over that one. Let's go with GBP. Let's see, AUD. All right, let's go with GBP AUD. All right, so understanding GBP AUD. Now I'm gonna use this one because I'm gonna come back and we're gonna talk about, maybe I don't want to use that one. That had a nice strong upward trend. So I don't want to have to go back very far when we start walking through the strategy. So I'm gonna just use this one. All right. And this one has some nice continuations. I know we cashed out. This is our markup from this morning. We had some nice continuations. So now here, this is what, where we want to go. All right. And I'm going to just move this one over so we can kind of see from here. All right. Now, here we have it. This is a strategy. Now, for those of you all have questions, comments, questions, as we dive in and as we walk through this, make sure you drop it in the chat, drop it in there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to definitely answer your questions as we go through this. The evenings are about education, all right? The evenings are definitely about education. And so I want to make sure that you're grasping, right, that educational base. I want to make sure that you're grasping that. So now, as we dive in, so I want you guys to understand these timeframes, all right? Like I said, I'm gonna get to the strategy, but I want you now, of course, this is something that's in the academy, but I cannot stress to you enough that you understand that each candle is a certain amount of minutes. So we had some questions about the countdown timer, because of whatever updates it was going through. But here, my countdown timer, so if I'm on a 15-minute chart, it's 9:15. So you see that this countdown timer that means that I have 15 minutes or, 14 and some change now until I get to that next candle, right? That's what that is for. And so it's not about how many pips you get. I want you to understand. your movement, right? This has been going all day. This has been going all day, right? And we literally, so you guys should be in some nice profit though. You guys should be in some good profit. How many pips are we up? Let me just back up just a minute. So you guys should be in some nice profit from this morning, depending on when you got in it. But you see, it's slowly, we hit take profit too. Slowly. But that's what I mean about being on these candles. So it's not that I should get a certain amount of pips in a certain amount of time. It's the fact that each candle is 15 minutes. And so here we start on the 15-minute chart, right? And so on this one, obviously, each candle is an hour. So that means that I have a new hour candle. This is our new hour candle. So understanding that, right? When we look at this, the higher time frames is what determines the market. My higher time frames tell me what the market is doing. You know, my higher time frames help me understand where the market is moving to. It's my lower time frames, okay? My lower time frames is where like the activity happens. And so for you all, you know, as we get into tonight, is those entry points, which is i.e. why we have so many triggers, why we get so many on a 5-minute chart. So this will make it make sense to you. So now on a 15-minute chart, all right, 15-minute chart, we have our stochastic, Hikanashi candles, and the PSAR. So my stochastic, I'm always looking for that blue line to cross over the red in an upward or downward momentum, okay? And then, of course, I have my green candle with a flat bottom, and the PSAR, or I'm looking for a red candle with a flat top and that PSAR flip to the top. So if I'm evaluating this, okay, blue line cross over the red and upward momentum around the 20. You notice that this runs from 20 to 80, 80 to 20, 20 to 80 in this shaded area. Obviously, I can go from 0 to 100, 100 to 0, right? So do not think that just because like right here, you see how I'm up close to the 80, but I'm pointed upwards, right? My stochastic and everything is in an upward momentum. So that does not mean I'm ready to jump into a sell because it's at the 80. That's a guide, okay? And this is why this crossover and cross up, this crossover and cross down is so important, all right, guys? That's why that's so important. So now, as I look at this and I have that crossover and that cross up, and you see that all I need is that current, like this, I would be watching and prepping, you know, if this was down here. So even this is a crossover, and so it's a leading. It always begins. And of course, I know when we come on these calls, it looks really pretty. It looks like this, right? And as you look at this, you're looking at it like, well, this doesn't look like that. Well, it started like this. You know, of course, just imagine if this was a rope. Okay, just imagine if it was a rope. If I hooked it on something and I pulled it up. Now, when you first start pulling it, you're not going to see the moment, you know, you're not going to see that nice pull up, that nice tug up. However, you know, when I really pull it up, then of course, it's going to take that slack out of it because we've already had our momentum up. So when we're training, we're always looking back. We're always looking back. And so I want you guys to begin to train your eyes to understand what it looks like in the beginning. And then of course here, I have that green candle with a flat bottom and my PSAR flip. Now your stop loss, okay? Let's talk stop loss for a minute. Let's talk stop loss. All right. Your stop loss is always below or above the PSAR. Now, I got it. You know, this is GBP. This is going to be a nice amount of, well, hey, it's only 7, 8 pips. I've seen it 20 pips. It's GBP, you know, and in the mornings, obviously, it's going to be more because that's when they have more liquidity in the market. But if you focus on the skill set, if you've attached your online trade journal, no one should be concerned or thinking about how many pips the stop loss is. I have literally seen traders, and everybody trades their own way. I have literally seen traders do like a 50 pip stop loss for like 10 pips. It's all personal preference. It's all personal preference. But what I like about the PSAR is the dot, is the market tells you where the market tells you where the stop loss should be. The market is, you don't have to guess at it. It takes all of that guesswork out of it. So now what you're doing is you're just kind of focused here. And so you just know we don't put it on it. You know, just like, for example, if I was trading, right? And if I was doing just straight price action, and I was looking here, if I was looking to buy or sell, like let's say I was selling right here, would you ever put your stop loss directly on a support and resistance line? The answer is absolutely not. The stop loss is never dead on a support and resistance line, right? It's never dead on it. It's always a little bit above it. That's the same thought process and the concept. It's always a little bit above it. Now, how much above it or below it is completely up to you based on your risk management, but it's always above or below it. And if it's below it, so this is like a dynamic support and resistance line. So because it's not straight, it's not that traditional one. So it's one that's kind of moving with it, right? And so that's where your stop loss goes. It goes below it. And then, of course, I want to do time frame confluence. So time frame confluence is when I jump to the hour, right? I jump to the hour. And when I'm here on the hour, you can see that I have confluence, right? So what do I mean by confluence? Okay, let's break this down. What do I mean by confluence? Confluence simply means that I'm looking at this. So I know many of you are, because of what our eyes do, you jump to this hour, right? Many of you guys will jump to that hour, and I mean the actual candle, right? Many of you guys will just jump to the candle because of the fact that as I'm looking at the candle, then that's, it's buying, that's my confluence. But I need you to also pay attention to this oscillator. So if this was selling, now you see it's reaching that overbought territory, which is where we really start paying attention, but it's still buying. Technically, it's still buying. It hasn't crossed over and crossed down. Now, would I jump in a trade right here? No, because we're overbought, but I'm just kind of walk you through. And it went up, right? It went up, but we also want to trade with our discipline. So it went up. But, it's also, I mean, of course, this had a little curve, but this is when you start paying attention because you're in that overbought territory. But just sticking to the basics of the strategy, this is coming out of a correction. And I obviously have confluence, because if this was pointed down like this, like if my oscillator, the point I'm trying to make is if my oscillator was pointed down like this, then I wouldn't be considering this trade. So then when I drop down, right, I drop down. And when I drop down, you can see that my 5 minute is still buying. Now, why is that important? My lower time frames is where my activity happens, right? My lower time frames is where all that activity happens. And so this is where you get a lot of the movement. And so you see a lot more activity in these lower time frames. So if I'm here on my hour, right? If I'm here on my hour and I'm kind of looking at this, right? That's that hour candle that's in a buy. I come down here to my 5 minute. Look at all of you see overall it's in a buy, but look at all of the back and forth that's in this. All right. You see more of the activity, right? And so obviously the lower I get, the more activity I'm going to see. But you notice that it's still, even though I have some sales in here, it's still moving upwards in that buy, right? Even though I have some sales in there, and now you see wave patterns on the 1 minute, even though we don't trade the 1 minute but I'm showing you this because I have some HFX. I see some of you all, and if you're on a call and that's your, that you dropped in the Telegram, you dropped in the Telegram Messenger, congratulations, you are definitely on your way. And someone dropped their HFX in there. So congratulations. But for those of you who are trading HFX, you see how my higher time frame definitely gave me the direction and understanding of where I'm going. And my lower time frame is where, I can see all of this momentum. And so just to kind of add a little HFX to this tonight, because we just went through the strategy, you realize it's valid, right? Just kind of add to it a little bit. If I was doing HFX, I want you to pay attention. So now you see I'm on a lower time frame, but all of these support and resistance lines matter. All of them matter, every last one of them. So even on the 1 minute. So even though I know that I'm rising, I know I'm going up. You notice how on the 5 minute, I didn't see all that pullback, right? I didn't even see all that pullback that you see up in there. So you didn't see all that pullback. But the lower I go, you see all of that pullback. You see it. And that's important. So I have to look at my higher time frame to know where I'm going. But then now you can see we have all that pullback the lower I get, because we still have market patterns and market structure on every time frame. It's just which ones have more impact on the market, the higher time frame. But if I'm scalping, which HFX is significant scalping, That's why my super scalpers love HFX. You need to know that you wait for that retest, and this is where you hit that call in those puts. So this is where you turn around and you take that trade. Had the opportunity to drop that in there, definitely wanted to, because on a profit call, I don't have to separate the calls. Based on your trading style, we've had people profit on the same currency pair 2 different ways. So all you have to do is dive in. And so this is just giving you a deeper analysis. All right. But if you are new, you're just trying to grasp it, you're just trying to grasp it, it would definitely be like that blue line cross over the red and an upward momentum, green candle flat bottom, PSR flip, check my higher time frame, go to my lower time frame and make sure it's still buying. So that's the BYOB cash out strategy. I do my 10 pips and cash out, right? 10 pips and cash out. And then, or I can trade to a support and resistance line. As you learn your support and resistance, you trade to that first support and resistance line. Now, what does that do for you? That obviously the liquidity in the market right now, but that would have been about 15 pips. So you definitely would have got your 10 pips and cashed out. So obviously there's more liquidity in the market in the mornings. You can see it based on what, that would have been like 30 to 50 pips in the morning. So just kind of help you understand the liquidity. So, and that's also in a playlist, trading BYOB cash out. It help you understand how you understand the liquidity in the market, because I know most of y'all stop at the first 1 or 2. So on a higher time frame, we would expect to go to the pivot level, because now I wasn't touching pivots tonight, but just to answer your question, now understand that pivot where now what I'm mentioning right now is support and resistance lines. So remember that the pivots are still support and resistance lines. They are. So they're definitely support and resistance lines. So when you understand the pivots are support and resistance lines, the reality is so here you see that I have support and resistance lines on each one. But if I drop my pivots on here, right? If I drop pivots on here, then basically like what we're always training on and understanding, the pivot point is the center point of the market. So anytime you push away from that center point, the market is going to be attempting to pull back to that pivot point. And we'll come back and do an entire training on that, but tonight I kind of want to talk about those entry points. So, but just the biggest thing about pivots is the pivot point is the pivots are calculated based on current market conditions, but they're still support and resistance. Don't try to make them not support and resistance. They're just support and resistance lines that have been identified by current market conditions. So maybe that'll make it a little bit clearer. The market identified those as significant, even though all of them, we don't want to ignore any of them. Those have been identified based on where the market feels that it should be. So this is, this the pivot point, the resistance and the support. So obviously the market is not going to just ride the pivot point. So those help kind of guide you to where the market should kind of stay contained, if that's the best way. Now, but I want you guys to understand market structure, because we don't always contain the market. All right. We don't always just contain the market. The market is going to do what it does. And that's why, even though we use them, I don't want you guys to start using them as a crutch, because when we start doing that, we start ignoring the other things that indicate how effective and when and how and what we could trade, right? So I don't want you guys to ignore that. I want it to be a benefit, an added value. So, all right. So now let's go ahead and kind of dive in and talk about this. So here we go. All right. So I want you guys to understand these zones. So before I start pulling on this, first and foremost, let me back up just a minute. I told you guys with me, I shifted training just a little bit. So let's dive in. And I really want you guys to understand the power of this tool. All right. Because I'm about to talk to you about zones. I'm going to talk to you about your zones, and I want to talk to you about the alerts, the triggers. Okay. I want to talk to you guys about those things, but I want you to understand the power and the magnitude of the tool that we're using. All right. So even though, like I told you tonight, I had my notes, like with everything kind of lined up, we were still going to bring it back here. Harmonic scanner, still bring it back over here to the vibrato. You guys see me all the time, no matter what we're touching, I bring it back to the vibrato. And I want you to understand the magnitude and the power of this tool. Now, as you can see that this is our visionary, and look at the statement beneath there. It enables you to trade like the banks. Haha, be your own bank, right? So you ever thought about the reason behind that or why that statement is there? Well, this tool was taken. His background is in investment banking. So we took this tool and it was vetted. This tool was vetted. And so it's very comparable to what the big banks utilize. It's very comparable to the same types of systems. So when we say be your own bank, I mean, we mean literally. So I'll play this clip for you. I just really want you all to understand the power and the magnitude of this tool, all right, that we're going to walk through.
Folks, I'm just absolutely amazed to know that I'm a part of an organization looking to empower and impact lives across the globe. I've been in this space for over 20 years, commercial banking, lending, and when I look at the web analyzer in comparison to what the big banks of the world utilize, that web analyzer is equivalent, far exceeds the expectation that I was anticipating after having that experience on the investment market. So folks, for those of you who don't understand the magnitude of what you have your hands on, I encourage you, I challenge you to take a deeper dive and realize that really you have in your own hands to become your own bank and allow us to be a partner to empower you economically, financially, and leave a true legacy.
All right, so guys, you understand the power behind that, right? The power behind this tool. And so this is what, when we talk about these alerts and we talk about, the things that come through it, they're very, very significant. So now let's go ahead and let's talk about this, okay? And I'm gonna kind of stay on this one. This one and our GBP, JPY, we've been looking at. But if I come over here, because this is already kind of marked up, I'm gonna get rid of that, okay? I'm gonna get rid of that. So we've trained on support and resistance lines, right, guys? We've trained on them. And for those of you all, that'll have to be like that to train on those, it's like it'll take like the whole hour, okay? And so what I kind of want to point out, as we're doing this, I want you to look at this, okay? Let me come up a time frame. I want you to look at this market, okay? Now you see I'm on a higher time frame. And you see on a higher time frame, the market, how it moves, all right? I just want you to look at this. So you notice that right now, can your eyes see support and resistance lines? If they cannot, go back to that video, do your homework. Just do your homework. Let me get a 555 in the chat for those of you all the homework has helped. Just let me get a 555 if the homework has helped you. Awesome. There we go. Go do your homework. It's, this is about taking ownership and actually believing in what you do. This is about taking ownership. So if we say, this is something that we need to do, then go do it. So this is where your ownership comes in, as far as you have to put action behind those affirmations. We say put energy behind them because that brings it to your focus, but you have to put action behind those affirmations. Putting action behind those affirmations is like going to do that homework. So that's something where you want, that you want to put action behind it. And so now, and I'm saying this and I'm taking my time because we believe in education. We believe in, really, really, and making sure that you understand this. Because if you're not wanting to understand this, then do not drop statements like you want to leave your job, or, do not drop statements like you want freedom, because what you're doing is allowing yourself to continue to rely on someone else to feed you. Because only time you'll be in profit on any level is when someone feeds you. And so that's why we teach, train, and trade the way that we do. So you guys are empowered. It's very intentional. So when you look at this, okay, and you see these, and I have them thicker for you this evening, and I'm gonna leave them thick. But when you look at these, you have to be, now I'm on a 4-hour, you have to be able to look at this chart and see where those lines fall. So if I was to take this to my line chart, where we begin, you can see where those touches are, right? I can see where those touches are. I can see them, I can see them, I can see them, right? These are all those touches. So if I come back to my Hikanashi candles, right, definitely want to get back to my Hikanashi candles. And when I come back to my Hikanashi candles, now I want you to be able to look at these zones, okay? These zones. You say this is why I should be. Thank you so much. I want you to be able to look at these zones. Now, as you look at these zones, right, you can definitely see, how the market reacts. So you see I'm on a 4-hour, which means that this is today. This is February, right? So this is February. And now the market reacted here. This is why they're so important. Market reacted here the same way the market reacts over here, right? And remember, it's a zone, no definitive line. So, we can say it's a definitive line, but the reality is so is the market not reacting in all of these spaces, right? This is where the market's reacting. So now you see that the market's reacting, it's doing the same thing here, here. So when you think about when I said this morning, you'd be dipping for pips, would you take a buy right here? Like if I'm here, would I take a buy from right here if it didn't pass this zone? Absolutely not, because it got rejected. It got rejected. So I need to know that we're going to bypass this area before we would take a trade. So just kind of think. So zones. Now, this is how I trade. I cannot, like I said, I know everybody trades a different way. People have their own methodologies of trading, but this is what made the market clear for me in the beginning. When I was, looking at this, and it just brought so much clarity to me when I began to identify these zones. And so now what I wanted to focus on, because I want you to understand why these alerts are so accurate. And even if we get an alert on a 5-minute, why we always go up to the higher time frames, right? This is why. So now as I'm looking at this, I want you to look at how this is reacting. All right. Look at how it's reacting. It's reacting. So this is why I gave you guys homework on doing support and resistance lines, because it's going to help you see those zones. And then, of course, when we talk about market structure, we always talk about look left. And I think this will answer that pivot question as well, because we always talk about looking left. Okay. Looking left. I know sometimes we have to, rely more on the pivots, like if we're using Bitcoin or something like that. But when you're sitting here and I look left, what is happening here? If I look left, what's happening here? So this is where you use market structure to help you determine where am I going to go in the market? Like how far would I be willing to go? And also, of course, in combination with other things that that we consistently talk about. But I just want you to understand, just like when we looked at gold and gold was kind of waving in between that zone, it had not broken out. And this had kind of stayed in between the zone for a little while before it broke out. So before I would have taken a trade here, I would have definitely needed it to bypass here, because we didn't want to get caught up in no dipping for pips. We didn't want to get caught in it wicking out. Because imagine had you thought this had moved past, you took a trade here, and now look where you are, right? You always want to pay attention to where we are in the market. So now, as I drop down, notice that as I drop down, I began to see, this is why I mark these up, and I actually make these a different color. I began to see more support and resistance lines, right? Now I'm seeing a few more, okay? This is the hour. So you always want to do I always start mine around an hour, but I started higher so I can actually help you guys understand and see what the market's doing. So now as I drop down some more, you notice that you start seeing a few more. Like let's come down to the 5. The 15 before we hit the 5. Now you're starting to see, look, I want this one yellow because it was on the hour. But when I come down here, don't I see another one? I see another support and resistance line. Okay, I see another one. I see more that happen in between here. Like you see one that's right here. But also, did this really stop the market, move the market, shift the market? Did it really have that much impact? It might have paused it for a minute, but do you really see where it has a lot of impact, where it's really stopping the market? This is why even if I'm trading on the 15, I need to go up and see what's happening on the higher time frame. And then when I drop down to the 5, of course, I'll have more, right? I'll have more. So now you notice that, now it should be coming a little bit clear. Now I have more support and resistance lines. I have more on the lower time frames. So now you know why it's important, because my 5 minute is where that reaction, where I'm going to see all that activity. As to on the higher time frames, I didn't see all of this. Where we have this marked up is my higher time frame. So now you see that zone, you can kind of see this zone, right? You can see those zones. And so when you're seeing those zones, now you're looking for that entry. All right, now we're looking for that entry. So this is why we don't enter up here. I might identify a trade up here. Fantastic, fantastic, great, awesome, hallelujah, right? We identify a trade up there. But I'm not taking my trade up there. How you gonna cash out in the middle of class? No, I'm just playing. I'm just messing with you. That's always a good thing. That is always a good thing. So as you can see, on my higher time frame, I don't see all of this, right? I don't see all of this. But when I drop down, right? I drop down. Wait, come on now. You see how we get lower and it's like, where are my lines at? So as I drop down, you begin to see all of this that's happening within, like I have them everywhere. I have support and resistance everywhere. Now, let's talk about these triggers, because obviously a new one will be down further because I was going to pull it, but I kind of started over here. All right. Now, what happened is the vibrata, okay, the vibrata will trigger here, right? That's where it'll trigger. It'll trigger here. All these will be 5-minute triggers. It'll trigger here, right? It'll trigger here. It'll trigger there. It'll trigger here. Y'all, you get the point? You get the point? So all of these are 5-minute triggers. Okay, all of these are 5-minute triggers. This is where it'll trigger. So all of these will come based on, it does the heavy lifting for you. So when you see a trigger, it's not a signal. It's to come analyze it. Because let's say this trigger for a buy, right? Would you take a buy right here? Anybody? Yes, no, maybe so. Would you take a buy right here? Had it trigger for a buy? Exactly. No, you would not. So, but yet when it starts triggering for a sell, this will be all of them will be valid, because remember, it's scanning the market for you. But now you need to come analyze it. So you would take a sell here. You would take a sell, you'd be looking at this. I probably wouldn't have took a buy right there, Now, what I also want you to understand as we look at this, so all of these would be triggers. But this piece right here, okay, when you look at this part, where is it that I want? What do I want? Where'd it go? It's in here. Of course, I can't find it because I want it. I'm going to say, forget it and just go with something else. It's right there. It was there the whole time. So I know the stochastic's not on the chart. I know. So, but thank you. I moved it so I can make this bigger so you guys can see, but I appreciate that. So, but I'm going to pull it back up in a minute because I want you to see how it correlates. So when you're here, right, and you notice here, when we look right here, this movement up, it would trigger. But when I'm looking at the market, I know, right, what am I in? Of course. So now look at how that looks. So if all of this is in a sell, all of this is in a sell on my higher time frame. So basically you need to know that trigger or what you're looking at, that will be a counter trend trade. So this is why we have to do our time frame confluence. Time frame confluence is not an option. Time frame confluence is not a maybe. It's not a could I possibly, right? So that's why when I was telling you about your stop loss, okay, when we were talking stop loss and we were, mentioning that time frame, I need my time frame confluence, because now you see that if I analyze this properly, I can really understand where the market's going. And you notice that in that sale, my PSAR stays above the candles. Even when it pulls back, my PSAR stays above the candles, right? It stays there. So you definitely can see I wouldn't have taken that trade right there, not in a buy, because think about a correction. You don't know how far it's going to correct. You don't know how far it's going to correct. You don't know how far it's going to move over. You don't know those things. So all you can do, it could have went a few pips, it could have came up. So this is where your discipline comes in, because even though that was 12 pips, your pip reaction time might be 12 pips. So this is why that is so important. And now going back, right? So now, will we have time for me to go pull some? So now, as you're looking at this, you can definitely see how my stochastic was in that sale. And you see, we had a little correction right here, but now look, this did move up, but we did time frame confluence. So you notice that what is my stochastic doing that whole time? Let me come back up to the entire time frame. Let me come on back over here. When I'm here on this higher time frame, you notice that, let's put this in perspective, right? You notice that here where my stochastic started, all right, and I come back over here, you notice that we're gonna focus on this area in between here. You notice that on my higher time frame, my stochastic is in a nice sell, right? It's in a nice sell. Come down some, what is it doing? Look, I have my corrections, right? So we already know what we're doing right there. And the more I come down, watch how much momentum and how much change is in between these lines now. So now, remember, this was just straight down on one time frame. So now you can see the momentum. So it's all relevant to the time frame that you're on. So before I go any further, because I'm really looking at, I guess the time, any questions, comments, or testimonies? Questions, comments, or testimonies? So that means you have it, you're ready to go, you grasp it, you understand. So now when I come in and I'm on my 5 minute, 15 minute, and you're looking at those entry points, and I'm using a 5 minute because most of the triggers come through on a 5 minute. A lot of the triggers come through on a 5 minute. So when I'm here on a 5 minute, this is where you can kind of gauge, you can kind of gauge those entry points. So instead of me, once I've identified it, I've marked it up, I understand where I'm at in the market. And then I'll come back to that trigger and I'm waiting on this to come out of a correction. Let's look at this. Actually, so I don't have to keep flipping through, because, it depends if I don't have time to remark everything up, because I don't want to have to keep flipping through. We didn't mark it up down here. Let's come over here just a little bit and kind of stay over here, so I don't have to keep pulling the screen, making you guys dizzy. So now, as we look at this, okay, as we see this, you said, where would it record? On our YouTube channel. Go subscribe, be your own bank. So let's see. YouTube.com. There it is. So, oops. I guess I should have sent it. Oh, you got it? All right. Well, somebody else might need it. You say it's making more sense. Before the call, I had just put support and resistance lines and it looked like yours. So that lets me know I'm getting better. See, I told you guys, I celebrate testimonies. I get excited about testimonies. I really, really get excited about testimonies. So that is fantastic. So now, you say I like the pivots too. We'll add, this is why, that's why I moved over, because this looks a little choppy. This looks a little choppy, but we'll use it so I don't have to make you guys dizzy. Okay. So now, as I'm looking right here, all right, so what you're seeing let's look on a higher time frame, see what's going on over here. All right, so here we go. So once again, if I was to mark this up where this started right here, all right, so we start right here, and then we come over here. So I'm gonna just kind of stay focused on this zone area in here. So let me just kind of move this in so I can kind of draw your focus in. Now, even here, we weren't ready yet. That's the hour. Let me do it on the 4 hour. So we're not even done on the 4 hour. So let me make sure I'm on the right time frame if I'm trying to teach you something. Let me make sure I'm right. So obviously it'll be over this way somewhere. And where my 4 hours started this curve up is right around here. All right. So now when you look here, let me take this off. All right. So when we look here, you notice that on my higher time frame, this is where that crossover and cross up began. And you notice that we still have space and opportunity on my 4 hour. Now, when I come to my hour, right? When I come to my hour, now remember before we looked at this because I was on the wrong time frame. But when we're looking here, all right, do you see how it did not manifest? It did not play out. So you notice how sometimes we were on here in the morning and I'm telling you guys the 1 hour and the 4 hour are not confluent. They're not talking to each other. Well, this is an indication of that. The hour was not in alignment with the 4 hour. So this didn't move until that, the hour started here. It started before the 4 hour. The ones in the morning, sometimes it's like be a complete sell and a complete buy. But this one, you can see that the hour started first. But you notice that it did not manifest. It didn't go, and then it stopped. So now you see why I always tell you guys only trade to the first support and resistance line, unless you have the higher time frames lined up. So now, as I'm looking at this, let me continue to drop down. You're noticing, once again, all of those support and resistance lines that we began to identify, right? We began to identify on those other time frames. Now, remember, we're right in here is where we began. So if I come down to the 5 minute, right, because I know we had a trigger. But okay, that was an hour ago. We'll look at that one really quickly, but in just a moment. But now you notice that on this time frame right here, okay, so here we go. This is that blue line. Let me thicken this up a little bit because I want to make sure you don't miss it. And I can thin this out some so it'll be a little bit more transparent so you guys can see. So now as I'm looking at this, now do you see how you can get a tight entry point down here, right? You can get that tight entry point. So like if I needed a continuation, and this is why I wanted to go back because this is a little choppy, but you would buy, this is where it would start, right? This is where you would start your buy from, is where it began its alignment. So you got a trigger, right? I have a trigger. Then I go to my higher time frames, right? I check my confluence to see if it even makes sense. Then I go to my higher time frames. I need to know where I am in the market, what's happening in the market, what is the market doing, right? That's what I need to know. What is the market really, really doing? What's happening? But then, when I understand what the market's doing, now I drop down because that trigger is giving me that entry point. That's what it's triggering. It's like an alert for your entry. It's not a signal for an entry, right? It's not a signal. So you see why I said you're the signal. And tonight we were going to focus on you being the signal. So it's not a signal. You're the signal. And so now you just walk back, analyze it, and you can enter here. So now when you're looking at those buy and stop orders, for example, like because I really want you guys to see. Now, if I had to walk away, and this is why I say do not do a stop order until you understand what I just shared with you. Do not do stop orders unless you understand what we just trained on. All right? Because where are you going to put it? Tell me right now as you're growing and developing your skill set, where would you drop a stop order? Where would you put it? You don't know. And I don't want you just happenstance, trading happenstance. I don't want you just dropping them on there like, oh, I'm gonna put it right here. I think it goes right here. No, we don't trade like that. We're educated. We're educated traders, right? We are educated traders. So you want to pass this, all of this, that's the stop loss is below the P, sorry, above or below the P, sorry. I'm saying, where would I put my, okay. So for clarity, because they both say stop. And trust me, I would not have named it this if I had something to do with it, trust me. But you have market orders. So if you go back, was that Tuesday we trained on that? Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. But also in that playlist, I didn't really go into detail on the market orders. I mentioned it. But if you open your MetaTrader 4, there are different market orders. And two of them are called a buy stop and a sell stop. And so you have a stop loss, which means stop the loss. And then you have below or above the PSR for the stop loss. And then you have your stop orders, which is a buy stop and a sell stop, right? And so, what that means, right? So what that means is that's where you would enter the trade. So that's why I can understand why you said what you said. That's why I can understand why that would have been the answer, because they all say stop. And you might have just thought that's what I was talking about as well. Especially if you're not familiar with stop orders, then obviously you would have thought stop loss, So, but a stop order means start. So a stop loss means stop the loss, and a stop order means start the trade. So yes, I wouldn't have named it that. So just for clarity. So I would have put a sell stop or a buy stop once you pass these areas. So you don't touch the trade. You don't touch it until you bypass those areas. But, of course, if I'm sitting here, then I'm going to see this happen. I'm going to see this happen, and I can do my market execution. But if I have to walk away, I just look left and I line it up and I'm waiting, because when all of this was going on, did you know how long it was going to take? No, you didn't. And so you drop down and you see all of that little congestion activity, because it's always going to react around a support and resistance line. The only time it doesn't do this is if you have a breakout trade. So even though, let me just move this one down, because it's technically one right up in here too. So you notice that as it comes through there, it's like it'll bounce off of it. It comes up, it breaks down. So you see, it rejects, pulls up, it breaks through, it retests, and then it keeps going. That's what the market does. So yes, sometimes you get breakout, like this will be a breakout. It just went on right through. So, but if it does a breakout and you don't do breakouts, guess what? Then you don't take the trade. So you see it, this is typical, where it hits it, it rejects, it comes through, it retests, and it comes, right? And so that's what's typical. And so when you look at that, that's going to help you kind of hone in on those entries. So even like if the vibrato would have called this, you would have known how to take a continuation trade. And so you notice that, remember the other morning when I said, as far as the stochastic, because I'll get that question a lot. Well, it's not at the 80, it's not at the 20. Skill set development, because as you can see, it started here. We pulled down. We had some market correction, and then it started moving. So sometimes it'll be there, but you have to be able to go back. You have to be able to go back and understand where it was at the 80. You have to be able to see it. So you say a buy stop is like a predetermined entry point. Yes. Now go to the playlist, because we're actually about to end the call in just a moment. But go to the playlist, and when you go to the playlist, there are some videos in there. That, trading the BYOB cash out, there are more videos than those first two. Like I mentioned, the liquidity and volatility, one that talks about, it's a lot. And one that talks about market orders and, the basics, not basics like we do Tuesday, but like basics, kind of understanding, what the market and how it does. So that's definitely, that's definitely how you would enter these trades. And that's what I want you guys to focus on. So even if you have to go to a demo account, right? Crypto moves slow on the weekend. So even if you have to, or even tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's Friday. So even if you have to go back to a demo account and really just kind of take it slow, just really kind of dive in and just take your time, go do that tomorrow. Go do that. So because we're going to end this month strong. And that means that, remember, this is transformation, the year of transformation. Last year, this time, everybody's life changed. Everybody's life changed. And so we want you guys at a point to where you can see, right, what is the last 12 months done for you? And so now as I focus forward on the next 12 months, by the end of this year, and when we move forward, like if you think 12 months from now, what is it that you want to develop and what is it that you want to transpire in your life? What is it? And that's the mindset that you have to have. And that's that focus that you're trading for. And so, because if you focus on this skill set and you take your time and practice this thing and you dive in, I can guarantee you what, you're definitely going to be doing. You set your family free. I love it. So now let's see, this just triggered. So as we close out, I want to, let me pause this and we'll look at this one, because we have this trigger and we'll look at that. And then I'll drop the pivots on for you guys real quick. If I get one more message about my pivot, no, I'm just playing. So now if I do this and so let's see here, 1 3 7 4 9 9. All right, so that's where the trigger happened. Now, obviously, it was about an hour ago. So this trigger happened during this candle right there. So let me go ahead and drop this and a trigger for a buy. And it also actually was on a 15 minutes. So let me drop down some. And so a trigger for a buy and it triggered on a 15 minute. So as you're looking at this, right? And what time did it trigger? It was at 1:00 right there. So now you can see where this trigger happened. So yes, this candle might have been fluctuating between red and green. It came out of a red candle. So if I go to my hour where my time frame Confluence is, it's a valid trigger. It's very valid. Now I go down to my 5 minute. You can see that you wouldn't have touched it until, once again, everything that we just talked about. What is my 5 minute doing? I see my 15 is coming out of that correction. My hour, is definitely confluent. I can drop down to my 5 minute, and where would I have entered this trade? I would have entered it right here. All right. So I can, I can definitely, even though I wasn't, I was here, you can use your 5 minute as a tighter entry if you understand everything that we just discussed, right? Remember, the 15 minute is the foundation. The 15 minute where we go over the strategy, that is the foundation. That's the foundation. That's the foundation. Okay. That is the foundation. So as you develop your skill set, you can begin to do things like drop down here, use the 5 minute, tighter entry. Then, of course, you say it's going to 3800. So quite possible. And why do I say that? And I'll drop the pivots on there. Those even numbers are institutional levels. So it's something else we haven't trained on yet, but those even numbers, those are those institutional levels. So if I look at this and you think about it, how many times do you say something might be like $1.83? You'd be like, oh, it was $2, right? So those are those institutional levels. One thing you want to remember is that everything is run by people, right? People. How do people think? So anytime you see those round numbers, those are institutional levels. We'll address that at a later time. We're already over our time. So now if I'll drop my pivots on here really quickly. So it's quite possible. I haven't analyzed it up just yet. They are here. Here we go. So look where my pivot line is. It's right there at that S1. So if you're already trading this, you're going to get some resistance a little bit around right here. So if you're not already trading it, you just need to, your entry point would be somewhere around up in this area. So, but yes, we're overbought, but we already know we're still in that upper momentum on that 4 hour. That's where my S1 is at, my pivot line. So everything is in alignment. I look at my market structure. I look left. You see right along, and also where that pivot line is, I look left. You see that's a support resistance line right there. I still have momentum to move upwards. Same exact thing. So sitting right here, what do we drop this on here for? Because it's right up in there. So now you can definitely see where you'll get a little rejection or what have you there. So there's your GBP USD, guys. So we did all of that so you can understand how to take that trade. We spent an hour explaining to you how to take that trade. Questions, comments, testimonies as we close out. Questions, comments, testimonies as we close out. You are welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You guys are so welcome. So I pulled up the one, when I went over the 3 minute, the 1 minute and all of that stuff, when I went over that, I was talking about HFX. So if you are an HFX trader, right? If you are an HFX trader, then you absolutely need to go down to the 1 minute. I've never traded off the 1 minute. That was the intent for tonight, for it to be a lot clearer. That was the intent. And that's ultimately why I shifted, because I was like, before I dive into something else, I really think that I want you guys practicing, you know. Thank you so very much. I really wanted you guys practicing and kind of going through, you know, just really, really, really making sure that you guys grasp that, right? That was the purpose, and that was the whole intent. You know, that was the whole intent for you guys to grasp that. All right. So any more questions, comments, testimony? And let me see here. I was just trying to do one more thing before we closed out. So well, all right, guys. So tonight, there will not be, let me see, there will not be a talk with the finance doctor. But Mr. Rogers, you have any closing comments or anything before? Because there's one more thing I want to share with everybody.
Yeah,
So
go ahead and share it. Go ahead and share it, and I'll go ahead and close this out.
Awesome. So here we have it. You guys are so welcome. Now, be your own bank. I'm telling you guys, think like a bank, act like a bank, be your own bank, okay? Be your own bank, and you also want to look like a bank. And so for those of you all, this is our store. This is our store. So you have your paraphernalia. You know, of course, we have your men's, you know, definitely have all of this in here for you. Definitely in there. So if I go back to all my collections, I just want you to notice that there is something for everyone that's in here, okay? Something for everyone. Now, one thing I definitely do want to highlight, and let me see here, because, and this is what I want us to get in the habit of doing, okay? I want us to get in the habit of doing this, is I want everybody to really just understand. Let me do a search really. Well, go get the dress then. Go get it. I can search up in here too. So now we do affirmations, right? We do affirmations all the time. Go get you a notebook. Put your affirmations in a notebook. That's ultimately, you know, I'm going to challenge all of you all, because mindset is so important. I'm going to challenge all of you all to be I am gratitude. With our Women Teach Forex movement, we've been doing this, and it's manifested in the lives of so many. And so I'm going to challenge all of you all to I am a gratitude journal. And that's why this is on there. So you want to operate in gratitude. You want to operate in forward thinking, in your I am. So you definitely want to make sure that that is ultimately where you're manifesting and where your energy goes, where your energy flows, where your energy goes. You know, I'm messing it up. I know what I said. I know what I wrote the other day, but is where, you know, what your focus is on, where your energy goes, your focus flows. So you want to make sure that, you know, and so you want to go get your notebook, and you want to begin journaling. You want to make sure, and you want to dedicate yourself, you want to dedicate your time to where you're journaling. You know, this is what you want to do. So it's more than just writing it in a chat. We want to write it. We want to walk through it. We want to live it. We want to be it. And then, of course, we do have the fashion. So, you know, if I pull up the fashion, you know, since you mentioned a dress, I'll pull up the women's fashion. You know, because we always want to think, and we want to look like a bank. You know, this is ultimately what we want to do. And so it's BYOB movement shop. And I just have to highlight this because sometimes we need shirts made for special events or different things. Go design your own, go create your own. You can come in here, click the mouse pad, and it's the customizer. So you just come in here and you customize it to whatever it is that you desire. You need a product for something. Hey, what do you need a product for? What are you doing, right? So just all sorts of things in here. So what is it that, you're looking for? What's coming up? Easter. You want an Easter shirt? Go make you an Easter shirt, so go design your stuff. So be your own bank. So I'm gonna have to come back to that. It's on my Facebook page. That quote is on my Facebook page. I wrote it the other day and I'm trying not messing it up on the card, but I wrote it. So, but it's on my Facebook and you'll see it there. So, all right. So with that being said, I love you guys. Go do your homework. Go do your homework. Go be great on purpose. Go do your homework and be great on purpose. Mr. Rogers? Now he's got to get unmuted. Mr. Rogers?
Yes, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Ms. Dyer, I mean, you went to the women's fashion, but how about showing us some men's fashions before we don't want to leave anyone left behind. So can you show us some men's fashions, please?
Absolutely. Okay, send me a message on Telegram. You say, how do you become a part of the women's movement? Send me a message on Telegram. So that was the other quote that I made. So here you go. This is the men's. Now, I like these shoes though. This is the men's. But thank you for that. Thank you for dropping that, Miss Collins. So yes, this is the men's. This is the men's. That's it. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. That's the one. Thank you. So yeah, there you have it. So that's the men's fashion. Well, that's just some of it because we have several pages of it. So most definitely, I appreciate that too. Thank you. So we have, you want to think like a bank, act like a bank, be your own bank, and look like the bank. That is what this is all about. And so for the ones that, like I say, send me a message on Telegram if you want to know how to become a part of the Women Teach Forex. All right. All right. So Mr. Rogers.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ms. Dyer. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are inspired and your saw has been sharpened tonight and you are absolutely excited about you being the signal that you having the opportunity, whether you're with us live or in your own leisure, you are now understanding how to dissect the market, understanding market structure, and understand that the wealth is theirs for the taking because you know how to go into the market. I need you to drop a 777 in the chat if this night has completely and totally inspired your mind to be excited about your future, because we're quickly heading into the second quarter. We decreed and declared that this is the year of transformation. 2020 corrected our vision, but now we are now transforming our lives. We're transforming our communities. We're transforming our personal households, our places of fellowship. And ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited. The vision is clear. 1 million families financially educated and impacted. Yes, we're going to extend that run to include now we're leaving 1 million. So the vision now by March the 31st, 2022, we're going to add 1 million families. So now we started out saying 1 million families financially educated and impacted, but we're now increasing that to 2 million families, right? And that number is going to continually evolve until we have every person that's in our sphere of influence, they've been exposed to this information, because we want to make sure that we leave our friends, our neighbors, and our relatives in a better state when they encounter us and they encounter this information. So if you're excited about extending that vision to 2 million families by March 31st, 2022, and you excited about you being one of those, and then are you excited about adding someone else that you know that needs to hear this information? I need you to drop a 555 in the chat. If you are that person that can be excited about adding to that number and locking arms with us as we continue this crusade, this journey, this purpose, this mission because you're equally important to the overall theme. Yes, myself, Dr. Bythewood, and the Trade Whisperer, we came together as a collection, as a consortium. But guess what? It's now your turn. Someone on this call is going to grasp this information tonight and realize that your legacy is at stake now. And you have no choice but to manifest, because once again, this is a year of transformation. So if you're receiving that this is your assignment to transform your local community, your personal household, your place of fellowship, and you are the philanthropist that has the ability right now, the intellectual power, the capability, the skill set, the understanding, as well as the heart to be that enzyme, that catalyst of change. If that's you, I need you to drop an 888 in the chat. And so if you don't know, the number 8 represents new beginnings. So I want you to walk out of this session tonight knowing that it's a new beginning. It's a new season. It's a new day, a fresh anointing that is coming your way. A season of power and prosperity. It's a new season and it's ordained for you. So if that's you and you stand in agreement with me, once again, I need to drop another 888 in the chat. Amen. So Father God, we say thank you once again for your grace, for your mercy. We thank you for your resolve of putting something on the inside of us that will never allow us to not pursue our dreams. We thank you for wisdom. We thank you for stamina. We thank you for understanding. We thank you for the hearts and the minds for those who are representative, that represents families, that represents generations and generations to come. So we take and we anchor ourselves knowing that you've gone before us and you've made every crooked place straight. We yield to the leading of your spirit. We're guided by your focus, your purpose. And we know that the things that you've given us is for the lives to make them better. So we'll be bold in our declaration. We'll be bold in our trust and dependency upon you. And we'll be free to operate in the liberty and the grace that you've given us to serve our fellow man, to serve our family, to serve our households, to serve our communities. And we do nothing for selfish vainglory, but honor, to bring honor and glory to you. So use us mightily. There's an army rising up in us that you've designed and you've called us to break every chain of financial despair in the hearts and the minds of the people that we have influence over. So we speak to their tomorrow. For those ears that have not heard this message, prepare their hearts that when they sense and they hear, they easily and readily follow. So we thank you right now. So bless every rectangle right now. Give them an unction. Rise up on the inside of them right now. And they go bold, facing their tomorrow, because knowing you've already gone before them and made every crooked place straight. So we release our anxiety and we embrace your peace. So we say thank you. And according to your word, we know it's complete, it's finished, and we trust you for every result. The work is ours to do, but all the glory and honor belongs to you. So we ask it and we say it and we claim it in the name of your son, Jesus. We love you. God bless. Hey, BYOB movementshop.com. Let's represent, let's change the world together. The world is a better place because you're now engaged in the execution of your personal excellence. So this will officially conclude this call. Have a wonderful evening. And if it be God's will, we see you at 5 a.m. on Monday.